The Perfection of Wisdom in 700 lines. Saptasatika, translated by Edward Conze. Om, homage to the perfection of wisdom, the lovely, the holy. A, the exposition of the field of merit. Thus have I heard at one time. The Lord dwelt at Sravasti, in the park of Unattained in the Jetavana, together with a large community of monks, with 1,000 monks who were arhats, and with 1,000,000 bodhisattvas, great beings, who were armed with the great armor, and who were all irreversible from the utmost right and perfect enlightenment, headed by Manjushri, the crown prince, Maitreya, Asanga Pratibhana, and Aniksiptadura. Thereupon Manjushri, the crown prince, rose from his peaceful seclusion, left his own dwelling, approached the dwelling of the Tathagata, and stood outside the door, so as to behold the Tathagata, to revere and honor him. The Venerable Saradvatiputra also left his own dwelling and approached the dwelling of the Tathagata, so as to behold the Lord, to revere and honor him. And likewise the Venerable Purna, son of Maitrayani, and the Venerable Mahamaugalyagana, and Venerable Mahakasyapa, the Venerable Mahaatyayana, the Venerable Mahakausuthila, and the other great disciples, left each one their own dwelling, approached the dwelling of the Lord, and stood on one side. Thereupon the Lord, having noticed that the assembly of the great disciples had approached, left his own dwelling, seated himself on one side on the seat spread outside his door, and, although he knew the answer, asked the Venerable Saradvatiputra, "Where did you come from before you came at daybreak to the door of the Tathagata's dwelling?" Saradvatiputra said, "In fact, O Lord, Manjushri, the crown prince, was the first to stand at the door of the Tathagata's dwelling. We came afterwards because we loved to see you." Thereupon the Lord, although he knew the answer, asked Manjushri, the crown prince, "Were you, Manjushri, in fact, the first to stand at the door of the Tathagata's dwelling, so as to behold the Tathagata, to revere and honor him?" Manjushri said, "So it is, O Lord, so it is, O well gone. I was the first to arrive here. I left my own dwelling, approached the dwelling of the Tathagata, and have stood on one side, so as to behold the Lord, to revere and honor him. Because I will never get tired of seeing the Tathagata, revering and honoring him. But when I approach the Tathagata, so as to behold, revere, and honor him, then I do so for the sake of all beings. If, O Lord, the Tathagata should be seen, revered, and honored, he should be seen, revered, and honored, just as I do see, revere, and honor him. Then the Tathagata does in fact become seen, revered, and honored. For the sake of all beings, I have come to see the Tathagata." The Lord then replied, "How then, Manjushri, should the Tathagata be seen, revered, and honored?" Manjushri said, "Through the mode of Suchness, or Tathata, do I see the Tathagata, through the mode of non-discrimination, in the manner of non-observance. I see him through the aspect of non-production, through the aspect of non-existence. But Suchness does not attain enlightenment. Thus do I see the Tathagata. Suchness does not become or cease to become. Thus do I see the Tathagata. Suchness does not stand at any point or spot. Thus do I see the Tathagata. Suchness is not past, future, or present. Thus do I see the Tathagata. Suchness is not brought about by duality or non-duality. Thus do I see the Tathagata. Suchness is neither defiled nor purified. Thus do I see the Tathagata. Suchness is neither produced nor stopped. Thus do I see the Tathagata. In this way, the Tathagata is seen, revered, and honored. The Lord asked, "When you see this, Manjushri, what do you see?" Manjushri replied, "When I see this, O Lord, I do not see anything, neither the production of a dharma, nor its stopping." Sarvadvaputra said, "When, Manjushri, you thus see the Tathagata and honored him, you are a doer of what is hard to do. Although you have set up the great friendliness toward all beings, yet you apprehend no being and are inclined to no being. Although you have progressed with the final nirvana of all beings as your aim, yet there proceeds in you no inclination toward any being whatever. And although you have put on the armor for the sake of all beings, you have done so by way of non-observation, etc., by way of non-existence." Manjushri replied, "So it is, Venerable Sarvadvaputra, as you say. This armor, Venerable Sarvadvaputra, has not been put on with the intention to effect the depletion of the world of beings or its repletion. If, Venerable Sarvadvaputra, to put an imaginary case, in each single Buddha field there were Buddhas and Lords countless as the sands of the Ganges, and if each single Tathagata were to abide for eons countless as the sands of the Ganges, demonstrating Dharma night and day, and if each single Tathagata, by each single demonstration of Dharma, were to discipline as many beings as have been disciplined by each single demonstration of Dharma on the part of the Buddhas and Lords countless as the sands of the Ganges, even if that were done, one could not conceive of a depletion of the world of beings or its repletion. And why? Because of the isolatedness of beings, because of their non-beingness." Sarvadvaputra said, "If, Manjushri, because of the isolatedness of beings and because of their non-beingness, one cannot conceive of the depletion or repletion of the world of beings, why then do you just now, having fully known enlightenment, demonstrate Dharma?" Manjushri replied, "If, Venerable Sarvadvaputra, there is absolutely no apprehension of a being, who then will fully know anything? Or to whom will he demonstrate Dharma? Because absolutely no Dharma can be apprehended." The Lord said, "If, Manjushri, there is absolutely no apprehension of any Dharma, how then can you speak meaningfully of a being? If someone were to ask you how many beings there are, what would you tell him?" Manjushri replied, "If he were to ask me that, I would tell him, just as many as there are Buddha Dharmas. If, O Lord, he would then further ask me how great the extent of the world of beings might be, I would tell him that it is as great as the extent of the Buddha's domain." The Lord said, "If further again, Manjushri, someone were to ask you wherein the world of beings is included, what would you tell him?" Manjushri replied, "I would tell him that it is included wherein non-production and unthinkability are included." The Lord asked, "If, further again, Manjushri, some were to ask you whereon the world of beings is supported, what would you tell him?" Manjushri answered, "I would tell him that which supports the element or dhatu of non-production, that also supports the world or dhatu of beings." The Lord further asked, "Supported whereon do you then, Manjushri, develop the perfection of wisdom at the time when you do so?" Manjushri replied, "I have no support at all at the time when I develop the perfection of wisdom." The Lord said, "When you are unsupported, Manjushri, Is that then your development of perfect wisdom? Manjushri said, when one is not supported anywhere, just that, O Lord, is the development of perfect wisdom. The Lord asked, at the time when you, Manjushri, developed the perfection of wisdom, which wholesome root of yours does at that time accumulate or decrease? Manjushri replied, none, O Lord. No one can develop perfect wisdom as long as the accumulation or decrease of any dharma whatsoever happens to them. That should not be known as a development of perfect wisdom where any accumulation or decrease of any dharma whatsoever is set up. That, O Lord, is a development of perfect wisdom, where one neither forsakes the dharmas of an ordinary person nor grasps at the dharmas of a Buddha. Because the development of perfect wisdom is not set up by taking as one's basis any dharma which one could forsake or grasp at. That, O Lord, is a development of perfect wisdom, when one approaches neither the faults of birth and death, nor the virtues of nirvana. For one does not review birth and death, how much less its faults. And I do not apprehend nirvana, how much less can I see its virtues? That, O Lord, is a development of perfect wisdom, where one appropriates no dharma whatsoever, seizes on none, and escapes from none. That, O Lord, is a development of perfect wisdom, where one apprehends the diminution of no dharma whatsoever, nor its growth. For non-production neither diminishes nor grows. Such a development is a development of perfect wisdom. That, O Lord, is a development of perfect wisdom, whereby no dharma is either produced or stopped, whereby no dharma is either depleted or repleted. Moreover, that is a development of perfect wisdom, when one strives after neither unthinkable nor definitely tangible dharmas. That which is striven after does not exist. He who strives does not exist. That wherewith he strives does not exist. Such a development is set up as a development of perfect wisdom. One does not think that these dharmas are superior and that those dharmas are inferior, and one also does not apprehend the dharmas which might be superior or inferior. Thus giving himself up to the practice of the development of perfect wisdom, a son of a good family does not apprehend any dharma at all. The development of perfect wisdom, O Lord, does not imagine any dharma as superior or inferior. There is nothing superior or inferior about non-production, or about suchness, the reality limit, or all dharmas. Such a development, O Lord, is a development of perfect wisdom. The Lord asked, are then again, Manjushri, the Buddha dharmas not supreme? Manjushri says, they are supreme, but just because they cannot be seized upon. Has again, O Lord, the Tathagata fully known all dharmas to be empty? The Lord replied, so he has, Manjushri. Manjushri said, but one cannot, O Lord, conceive of superiority or inferiority in emptiness. The Lord replied, well said, Manjushri, well said. So it is, Manjushri, as you say. Are then the Buddha dharmas not unsurpassed? Manjushri replied, they are unsurpassed, O Lord. Because in them not even the least dharma is found nor apprehended, the Buddha dharmas have not surpassed anything. Moreover, O Lord, the development of perfect wisdom does not lead to the winning of the dharmas of a Buddha, nor to the forsaking of the dharmas of an ordinary person. It neither trains in the dharmas of a Buddha, nor upholds them. Such a development, O Lord, is a development of perfect wisdom. And again, O Lord, if one reflects on no dharma, nor discerns one, then that should be seen as a development of perfect wisdom. The Lord asked, do you, Manjushri, reflect on the dharmas of a Buddha? Manjushri said, No, indeed, O Lord. If I could see the specific accomplishment of the dharmas of a Buddha, then I would reflect on them. But the development of perfect wisdom is not set up through discriminating any dharma and saying that these are the dharmas of ordinary people, these are the dharmas of disciples, these are the dharmas of Pratyeka Buddhas, these are the dharmas of fully enlightened Buddhas. The son of a good family who has given himself up to the yoga of the development of perfect wisdom does just not apprehend that dharma which would allow him to describe these dharmas as dharmas of ordinary people, or as dharmas of those in training, or as dharmas of the adepts, or as dharmas of fully enlightened Buddhas. Because as absolutely non-existent, I do not review those dharmas. Such a development, O Lord, is a development of perfect wisdom. It does not occur, O Lord, to a son of a good family who has given himself up to the yoga of the development of perfect wisdom that, quote, this is the world of sense desire, this is the world of pure form, this is the formless world, etc., up to this is the world of stopping, close quote. Because, O Lord, there is not any dharma which reviews the dharma of stopping. As such a development, O Lord, should the development of perfect wisdom be known. And again, O Lord, the development of perfect wisdom neither benefits nor injures any dharma. For perfect wisdom, when developed, is not a donor of the dharmas of a Buddha, nor an eliminator of the dharmas of an ordinary person. Just that, O Lord, is the development of perfect wisdom, where there is neither the stopping of the dharmas of an ordinary person, nor the acquisition of the dharmas of a Buddha. The Lord replied, well said, Manjushri, you who demonstrate this dharma which is so deep. You have set up this seal of the Bodhisattvas, the great beings, so that the greatly conceited disciples should wake up to what is really true, and also those among the followers of the Bodhisattva vehicle who lean on a basis. Those sons and daughters of a good family who, on hearing this deep exposition of perfect wisdom, will not tremble, be frightened, or terrified, are not people who have honored just one single Buddha or have planted wholesome roots under just one single Buddha. When, on hearing this deep exposition of perfect wisdom, they will believe and will not tremble, be frightened, or terrified, then they are sure to have planted wholesome roots under more than 1,000 Buddhas. Manjushri replied, the exposition of the perfection of wisdom becomes clearer and clearer to me. May it become quite clear to you, Manjushri, said the Lord to Manjushri. Manjushri replied, this development of the perfection of wisdom, O Lord, apprehends neither the stability nor the instability of any dharma whatever, because the notion of stability does not apply to all dharmas. Just that should be known as the development of perfect wisdom, that it is not set up for the sake of acquiring the support of any dharma whatever, because all dharmas lack in objective support. Such a development is a development of perfect wisdom. Moreover, O Lord, that should be seen as a development of perfect wisdom, wherein one does not come face to face even with the dharmas of the Buddhas, how much less with those of the Pratyeka Buddhas, and wherein one does not come face to face with the dharmas of the disciples, how much less with those of ordinary people. Moreover, O Lord, that is a development of perfect wisdom where, in the course of this meditational development, one does not even discriminate the unthinkable dharmas of a Buddha as, quote, the unthinkable dharmas of a Buddha, close quote. One should see that this development of perfect wisdom serves the non-discrimination of all dharmas on the part of the Bodhisattvas, the great beings. Moreover, O Lord, that is a development of perfect wisdom where, in the course of this meditational development, one sees all dharmas as Buddha dharmas, as unthinkable dharmas, but without doing any reviewing. Those sons and daughters of a good family who, on hearing this exposition of perfect wisdom, will believe, will not tremble, be frightened, or terrified, they will be such as have honored many hundreds of thousands of Buddhas. Moreover, O Lord, such is the development of perfect wisdom that no dharmas can defile or purify it, nor can it review any dharma. Such is the development of the perfection of wisdom. And this also, O Lord, is the development of perfect wisdom, that it does not differentiate between ordinary persons, disciples, pratyeka Buddhas, and fully enlightened Buddhas. Such is the development of perfect wisdom. The Lord asked, "How many Tathagatas have you honored, Manjushri?" Manjushri replied, "As many as there are the mental actions which have been stopped in an illusory man." The Lord asked, "You have, Manjushri, not yet completed the dharmas of a Buddha." Manjushri replied, "Can one then, O Lord, possibly apprehend a dharma which has not yet completed the dharmas of a Buddha?" The Lord asked, "Who then has got these dharmas of a Buddha?" Manjushri replied, "Even in you, O Lord, these dharmas of a Buddha do not exist and cannot be apprehended, how much less in other people." The Lord asked, "Have you, Manjushri, attained non-attachment?" Manjushri said, "Since I have never been attached to anything, why should I any further reach out for non-attachment?" The Lord asked, "Are you then seated on the terrace of enlightenment?" Manjushri replied, "Even the Lord is not seated on the terrace of enlightenment. How again will I be seated on it, when the reality limit is taken as a standard?" The Lord said, "Reality limit, Manjushri, of what is that a synonym?" Manjushri said, "It is a synonym of individuality." The Lord asked, "In what sense do you say that?" Manjushri replied, "Non-existent, O Lord, is that body, not a true individual body. It neither transmigrates, nor does it fail to do so. That is why that body is not a true individual body." Saradvatiputra said, "Destined for enlightenment, Lord, will be those bodhisattvas who, on hearing this exposition of perfect wisdom, will believe, will not tremble, be frightened or terrified." Maitreya said, "Quite near to enlightenment, O Lord, will be those bodhisattvas who, on hearing this exposition of perfect wisdom, will believe, will not tremble, be frightened or terrified. And why? Because the supreme enlightenment is nothing but the full understanding of these dharmas." Manjushri said, "As veritable Buddhas should one regard those bodhisattvas who, on hearing this exposition of perfect wisdom, will believe, will not tremble, be frightened or terrified. And why? Because in the ultimate sense of the word, quote, Buddha is synonymous with non-production." Niralamba Bhagini said, "Those bodhisattvas who, on hearing this exposition of perfect wisdom, will believe, will not tremble, be frightened or terrified. They will not look for support in the dharmas of ordinary people, of disciples, of pratyeka Buddhas, or of fully enlightened Buddhas." And why? Because all dharmas have no objective support, since they do not exist. That is why no objective support can exist for them. The Lord said, "So it is, Saradvatiputra, so it is. Destined for enlightenment will be those sons and daughters of a good family who, on hearing this exposition of perfect wisdom, will believe, will not tremble, be frightened or terrified. You should know that those sons and daughters of a good family are established on the irreversible stage, if, on hearing this exposition of perfect wisdom, they believe, do not tremble, are not frightened or terrified, and if they accept it, placing it on their heads as a mark of respect. They will be most generous givers, perfect in morality, and endowed with the most excellent patience, vigor, and trances, with the most excellent and quite unequaled wisdom, and with everything up to that cognition of the all-knowing, which is possessed of the best of all modes." And the Lord said again to Manjushri the crown prince, "On what grounds do you wish to fully know the utmost right and perfect enlightenment?" Manjushri replied, "If I had set out for enlightenment, then I would wish to fully know it. But I do not strive after enlightenment, because enlightenment is just the same thing as this Manjushri, the crown prince." The Lord replied, "You expound well, Manjushri, these very deep stations. That is because you have performed your duties under the jinas of the past, and have coursed for a long time in the holy life, which is devoid of a basis." Manjushri said, "If I were one who courses in the baseless, that would be equivalent to my having taken hold of a dharma. Do you see this, my assembled company of accomplished disciples?" Manjushri said, "I do, O Lord." The Lord said, "How do you see it?" Manjushri replied, "In such a way that I see no ordinary people, no learners, and no adepts. I do not see, and I also do not see. But I see in such a way that I see neither many nor few, neither those who are disciplined nor those who are undisciplined." Saradaviputra said, "If, Manjushri, you see in such a way those who use the vehicle of the disciples, how then do you see those who use that of the fully enlightened Buddhas?" Manjushri replied, "I do not review a dharma called, quote, Bodhisattva, nor a dharma, quote, set out toward enlightenment, nor a dharma called, quote, he fully knows. It is in this fashion that I see those who use the vehicle of the fully enlightened Buddhas." Saradaviputra then asked, "How then, Manjushri, do you see the Tathagata?" Manjushri said, "Leave the great Naga out of it, Venerable Saradaviputra. Do not busy yourself about the great Naga." Saradaviputra said, quote, "Buddha, Manjushri, of what is that a synonym?" Manjushri replied, "Of what then is the term, quote, self, a synonym?" Saradaviputra said, "It is a synonym of non-production." Manjushri said, "So it is, Venerable Saradaviputra. The word self denotes the same thing which the word Buddha denotes. What is here called the Buddha is synonymous with the trackless, because it cannot be easily intimated by words. It is not easy to define speech, how much more so the Buddha. You want to know, Venerable Saradaviputra, how one can describe the Buddha? He is the one who is not in full possession of enlightenment, who has not been produced, who will not be stopped, who is not endowed with any dharma, of whom there is not track, who is undifferentiated and just equivalent to the trackless. Those who seek for the Tathagata should seek for the self, for, quote, self and, quote, Buddha are synonymous. Just as the self does absolutely not exist and cannot be apprehended, so also the Buddha. As the self cannot be expressed by any dharma, so also the Buddha. One speaks of a Buddha where definitions fail. As it is not easy to understand what the word self means, so it is also not easy to understand what the word Buddha means." Saradaviputra said, "Bodhisattvas who are beginners, O Lord, cannot understand what Manjushri, the crown prince, has demonstrated." Manjushri replied, "I do not, Venerable Saradaviputra, demonstrate in a way that even arhats who have done what had to be done can understand it. In fact, I demonstrate in such a way that no one can discern what I have said, because enlightenment cannot be discerned by anyone, nor can it be fully known, seen, heard, or recalled. It has not been produced or stopped, and it cannot be pointed out or described. Insofar as there is any enlightenment, it is neither existence nor non-existence. For there is nothing that should be fully known by enlightenment, nor does enlightenment fully know enlightenment. Saradvatiputra said, "Has the Lord then not fully known the realm of Dharma?" Manjushri replied, "No, he has not. For the realm of Dharma is just the Lord. If the realm of Dharma were something that the Lord had fully known, then the realm of non-production would be something that ought to be stopped. In fact, however, the realm of Dharma as such is enlightenment, because there are no beings in it. Enlightenment is synonymous with the non-existence of all dharmas. It is thus that this realm of Dharma comes to be called thus, because as the Buddha's domain, all dharmas are undifferentiated. The word, quote, non-differentiation does not intimate anything, since one cannot instruct anyone about it, either through the conditioned or the unconditioned. It carries no intimation, and that is why it is something which intimates nothing at all. For all dharmas intimate nothing at all, because they do not manifest themselves in such a way that they could be objects of instruction. Even those who have engaged in the deadly sins have engaged in the unthinkable, and those who have engaged in the unthinkable have engaged in what is real. Because, quote, real is a word that implies no distinctions. Those who are endowed with the unthinkable Dharma are not destined for heaven, the states of woe, or parinirvana. And why? Because neither the unthinkable nor parinirvana has been set up for coming or going. Even among those who have committed the 4 root offenses, the offenses are quite groundless. Because in non-production one can look for neither a root nor a top. Quote, a monk who has no roots, unquote, means a monk who is not established anywhere. That a dispute has arisen means that a surpassing superimposition has taken place. And coursing in that surpassing superimposition, one becomes worthy of the offerings of the world. Because that surpassing superimposition is self-identical. A believing monk is not worthy to enjoy gifts given in faith, whereas a non-believing monk is worthy to do so. A proper monk is not worthy to enjoy those gifts, but an improper monk is worthy to do so. A monk whose clinging to existence is quite unimpaired is called, quote, an arhat whose outflows have dried up. Saradvatiputra said, in what hidden sense, Manjushri, do you say that? Manjushri answered, the sameness is quite unimpaired, and it is the sameness which is the guide. Another synonym for an arhat whose outflows have dried up is, quote, one who has not risen above fear. Saradvatiputra asked, in what sense, Manjushri, do you say that? Manjushri answered, he fears not even the least thing. What then will he rise above? Saradvatiputra said, what then is a synonym for, quote, the one who patiently accepts what fails to be produced? Manjushri replied, he is so called because through him not even the least dharma has been produced. Saradvatiputra asked, what is a synonym for an undisciplined monk? Manjushri replied, it is the synonym of an arhat whose outflows have dried up. For what has been disciplined is the non-discipline, and not the discipline. With this hidden meaning do I say that, quote, the monk who needs no discipline is a synonym of an arhat whose outflows have dried up. Saradvatiputra asked, what is a synonym for, quote, someone who courses in the higher thought? Manjushri replied, that term is synonymous with the ordinary people. Saradvatiputra asked, in what sense, Manjushri, do you say that? Manjushri answered, because he is superior to them. Saradvatiputra then concluded, Well said, Manjushri, well said. You speak like an arhat whose outflows have dried up. Manjushri replied, So it is, Venerable Saradvatiputra, as you say. And yet, although I am one whose outflows have dried up, I am not an arhat, because my longings for the level of a disciple or Pratyeka Buddha have also dried up. The Lord then said, Is it possible that a Bodhisattva, seated on the terrace of enlightenment, might be incapable of fully knowing the utmost right and perfect enlightenment? Manjushri answered, Yes, it is. Because in enlightenment, even the least dharma does not exist and cannot be apprehended. That is why it is called the utmost right and perfect enlightenment. And that enlightenment is unproduced. In it, no dharma exists, nor can be apprehended, which could be seated on the terrace of enlightenment, or which could fully know enlightenment, or by which enlightenment could be fully known, or which could rise from the terrace of enlightenment. By this method, O Lord, one can see that the Bodhisattva, when seated on the terrace of enlightenment, is incapable of fully knowing the utmost right and perfect enlightenment. The Lord asked, Enlightenment, of what is that a synonym? Manjushri answered, Of the 5 deadly sins. Because as non-existent, those 5 deadly sins have just the essential original nature of enlightenment, and therefore this enlightenment has the essential original nature of the deadly sins. It fully knows the deadly sins, but it is not a meditational development which provides a direct intuition of all dharmas. For all dharmas are absolutely beyond all direct intuition. No one can fully know them, see, or recognize, or ascertain them. Such is this enlightenment. The conceited, however, put out that these dharmas can be fully known, etc., up to can be made into an object of direct intuition. The Lord then asked, In my presence, does it occur to you, Manjushri, that the Tathagata is with you? Manjushri replied, It does not, O Lord. And why? Because thus is Suchness. And as the Suchness is, so is the Tathagata. For, O Lord, Suchness does not intimate the Tathagata, nor does the Tathagata intimate Suchness. And why? Because in the ultimate sense, both Suchness and the Tathagata are non-existent. It does therefore not occur to me that the Tathagata is with me. On the contrary, quote, Tathagata is a mere designation. Which is the duality in this Tathagata with reference to which it would occur to me that the Tathagata is with me? The Lord asked, Have you any uncertainties about the Tathagata? Manjushri replied, None indeed, O Lord. Though I would have such uncertainties if there were any accomplishments, genesis, or parinirvana of a Tathagata. The Lord asked, Does it not occur to you that the Tathagata has been produced? Manjushri replied, That might occur to me if there were a genesis of the realm of Dharma. The Lord asked, Do you not firmly believe that, quote, Buddhas and lords countless like the sands of the Ganges have gone to parinirvana? Manjushri replied, Is it not so, O Lord, that the Buddhas and lords have one single domain, i.e., the unthinkable domain? The Lord stated, So it is, Manjushri. Manjushri replied, Is it not so that the Lord stands there just now? The Lord replied, So it is, Manjushri. And Manjushri replied, These Buddhas and lords, countless like the sands of the Ganges, have therefore never entered parinirvana, because they have one single domain, i.e., the unthinkable domain. Unthinkability, however, is not produced or stopped. When the Lord won full enlightenment, those who will in the future become Tathagatas, Arhats, and fully enlightened Buddhas have therefore also known full enlightenment. Because unthinkability is not past, present, or future. Therefore, O Lord, those who form the notion that the Tathagata has been produced, or that he will go to parinirvana, will, in consequence, still further whirl around in the world and stay in it, and they will thereby prolong their sojourn in the world. The Lord then stated, "You may therefore, Manjushri, announce the fact that this unthinkability of a Tathagata is unthinkable and inconceivable in front of a Tathagata, or of an irreversible Bodhisattva, or of an Arhat whose outflows have dried up, because, having heard it, they will neither sanction nor reject it. For that which they think about is unthinkable and inconceivable." Manjushri said, "When, O Lord, all dharmas are unthinkable and inconceivable, who will be able to do any sanctioning or rejecting?" The Lord responded, "Just as the Tathagata, so also the ordinary people are inconceivable." Manjushri asked, "Are the ordinary people also in just that way inconceivable?" The Lord replied, "They are, because all that can be thought is inconceivable." Manjushri said, "If, just as the Tathagata, so also the ordinary people are inconceivable, because also their state, like all dharmas, is inconceivable, then those who have set out for parinirvana must already dwell in it, because parinirvana and inconceivability are one and the same thing. In consequence, there can be no differentiation in inconceivability. Those, O Lord, who spoke of these dharmas as dharmas of the ordinary people, and of those as the dharmas of holy men, should in fact have said, quote, 'Let us, to begin with, honor the good spiritual friend, and thereafter let us cognize, quote, these are the dharmas of ordinary people, and those are the dharmas of holy men.'" The Lord asked, "Do you, Manjushri, look for a Tathagata who is the foremost of all beings?" Manjushri replied, "I would do so if one being could be more perfect than another." The Lord asked, "Do you look for a Tathagata who is endowed with unthinkable dharmas?" Manjushri replied, "I would do so if anyone could be endowed with unthinkable dharmas." The Lord asked, "Do you again look for disciples who have been disciplined by the Tathagata?" Manjushri replied, "I would do so if anyone could be subjected to the discipline of the unthinkable element. The production of a Buddha has not been set up by the bestowal or by the removal of anything, because this unthinkable element is established and uncontaminated, and in it one can apprehend no differentiation between disciples, ordinary people, and so on." The Lord asked, "Do you then, Manjushri, not look upon the Tathagata as an unsurpassed field of merit?" Manjushri replied, "Because of his non-existence is the Tathagata a field of merit, and for that reason he is also an unsurpassed field of merit. This field of merit is unsurpassed because it is a field of merit and not a field of demerit. It is a field of merit in the sense that therein no dharma can reach the fullness of its perfection or wane away. A seed placed into it neither grows nor diminishes." The Lord asked, "In what hidden sense do you say that, Manjushri?" Manjushri replied, "Because, O Lord, this field is a field of merit in the sense that it is unthinkable." Thereupon, on that occasion, through the Buddha's might, the earth shook in 6 ways, and the thought of 16,000 monks were freed from the outflows without any further clinging, and 700 nuns, 300 laymen, 40,000 laywomen, and 6,000 nayutas of kotis of gods of the sphere of sense desire produced the dispassionate, unstained eye of the Dharma in Dharmas. The Venerable Ananda thereupon rose from his seat, put his robe over one shoulder, placed his right knee on the ground, bent forth his folded hands to the Lord, and said to the Lord, "What, O Lord, is the cause? What the reason for the manifestation in the world of this great shaking of the earth?" The Lord replied, "This discourse on Dharma, Ananda, called the exposition of the field of merit, has been taught in this very place by the Buddhas and lords of the past. That is the cause, that is the reason for the manifestation in the world of this great shaking of the earth."